Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for not running away to lunch. We have a very intriguing topic, as you know. My name is Shobha Tharoor Srinivasan. I'm not an astrologist, but we have two experts, one on either side. I'm sure many of you were very intrigued by this wonderful title about sun signs and love signs. I know as a teenager, I was also someone who looked through sun signs in the Linda Goodman books. I bet all of you have. But the people we have with us today are experts in Vedic astrology, which is a little bit different. Not about star-crossed lovers in Shakespeare or about planets not necessarily aligning, as we saw in Hardy's, tragic stories where he created opportunities for things to go wrong. We have astrology and the notion of some kind of divine or scientific power affecting our lives is there in literature in many, many different ways. But what you will hear today is from two experts who will tell us that astrology is far beyond sun signs of Linda Goodman's or even the love signs that we look at every morning in the newspaper. How much of astrology affects our lives? How much of autonomy do we have in how we conduct our life journey? So I'm going to start out by introducing you to Shalini Modi. And Shalini, can you tell us a little bit about what is Vedic astrology? How long have you been practicing? Can you sort of introduce us to the whole concept?
Shobha.
Thank you.
So I started learning astrology around 5 years back, say 2018, I think more than 5 years. And I don't practice it professionally, but I love to help out whoever wants to know. And it's a fun exercise because my interest in it grew from childhood because I saw my mother, invested in a lot of astrologers. And then certain things came true as well. So, which kind of, make you think that, how did this happen? And like you mentioned about love signs, my marriage prediction was done when I was I was in 5th standard. So that was like really young and it all came out true. So that led, grew the interest in me and I wanted to know about it. So that's how I landed up learning astrology. And I think it's an amazing, it's partially a science. It's only which sign is your moon placed in.
I see.
Rather than the sun. And moon changes every 2 days. So it'll be very different for different people born within 2 days itself. Unlike Linda Goodman, where one whole month the sun stays in one sign.
And in Linda Goodman, if you're Aries, everybody is exactly the same.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Shalini. Ridhi, I know that I looked you up when I was told to do this panel, and I discovered that you come from a long line of astrologers. I think it was your grandfather, or was it your father who was a... Is that working?
Yeah, no, it's not.
Can you turn on her mic, or you want to...
I'll use this.
Use this. You want to use Shalini's?
Yeah.
So Ridhi, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What is your expertise and when did you get into astrology?
Okay, so yes, Shobha, my great-grandfather, he was astrologer to the King of Jaipur. So, and he had written some 200 books in his lifetime on astrology and astronomy. So, as a child, I would see scholars coming and, discussing his books. There were seminars conducted on his work. And this, I was very clear from childhood that astrology is not about, wearing a gemstone or putting a tilak or tying a thread. I knew it's something which is serious and which needs to be studied. Then only one becomes an astrologer. And it's been precisely 19 years now that I have been in this, and I hold a degree of PhD in astrology. So, and I've been practicing it also as a professional astrologer.
Wonderful. Yeah. I'm going to ask you a fun question. Did
Please do.
Your family consult an astrologer before they created you said you were, I think you said you're married, right?
Yeah, I am.
So was it, did you match horoscopes before you got married?
Oh, Shobha, believe me, my father's biggest criteria was this only, that the horoscope has to match. More than anything else, he was so much, and that time I had not learned astrology, you know. But then for my marriage, yes, astrology played a very, very important role. And now when me and my husband have a fight, so we blame astrology, especially he blames it.
Well, you know, I mean, there's an aspect of astrology that sort of suggests that our entire life journey is mapped out, that the planets aligned during your birth are what influence your path. Yeah. Is there at all any kind of autonomy, or are we supposed to just live life based on what the charts have told us is going to happen at every juncture?
Well, see, I would like to clarify this. A lot of people come up with this thought and say, oh, what has been destined will happen only. Yes, certainly, whatever has been destined will happen only. But then we humans have the luxury of free will, where we can change the scenario. See, you know, the family you're born with, the siblings you have no say over it. Certainly, that is all fixed and predetermined. But now, in this life, you have the choice of picking up the career. You have career choices. You have choice of education. Even when it comes to marriage, you have a choice to pick the right partner for yourself. So it's not that, you know, it's a 100% thing, that 100% or everything is destined. Well, yes, it is to some extent, but then we do have the choice, and here where astrology plays a very important role, as it helps you in making the right choices at the right time.
That's interesting. The right choices at the right time. So in a sense, it's a scaffolding maybe. Is that how you would see it?
Correct, correct.
And
yes.
so when you're born, if you study the planets and you study the positions, gives you a scaffolding for how the life path could be, but
Correct.
we all have our own autonomy. As there's a little story that they used to say about Napoleon Bonaparte and palmistry. Evidently, when he was born, he had no fate line.
Oh.
I don't know if that's
No.
true or not, but I remember reading that. And so he took a knife and he cut a line on his hand and said, I make my own destiny.
Absolutely.
So the thing is not to take the planetary positions as being something set in stone, but
Yes.
merely a scaffolding or a foundation or the bulwark to get it started, correct?
Correct.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Shalini,
It's
what
like
do you
a-
think?
It's like a promise of the chart, they call it. So you're born, you're born with something. It's like a legacy that you're born with, and it comes from your last lives. That's the belief. So based on the karmas of the last lives, in fact, you get a horoscope.
Okay.
And that's how, that's what you will have. But then whether you want that, whether you're able to, you work hard enough to get that, is totally your choice. For example, there's a period which could be congenial for marriage, but you have to make the effort to find a partner, right? They might come your way. You have to kind of finalize one and choose one, and similarly and so on. So while we were studying astrology, our teacher told us that this young boy came to me, and I predicted that he'll be an excellent doctor, and he was studying medicine. And then this guy went ahead to prove him wrong.
So, you know, the day I know, you know, now what happens? Now, here comes the question, whatever is destined to happen will happen. So the migraine does occurs. But then, since I know and I control the triggering factor, the frequency, the intensity of migraine is not that bad. You know, I just pop in a medicine, I'm good to go. And if the days I forget and I don't take care, then the whole day is gone, I can do nothing. So, you know, something like this on a daily basis, astrology can be a wonderful guideline.
So for those of us who may be a little skeptical about that, do you think this is a little bit of a suggestion of wish-fulfilling prophecy, or rather, it's not wish-fulfilling, but sort of the dread that's written in? Do you think, like Damascus' sword, it's hanging on our heads and it's going to happen because we think it's going to happen? You know, the idea of auto-suggestion.
Well, see, again, I come to that. You know, like, I'll give an example. Like what we were discussing earlier. Like, you're destined for good food. So you go to a 5-star where a buffet is late, right? But it's your choice. You pick up 10 gulab jamuns, eat and spoil your health, or you pick up 1 gulab jamun, eat, and you're happy about it. There can be another scenario to it. You eat good food, still you're unhappy. You eat good food, but you're happy. Right? That is in our hands. Destiny got you to a place where you were destined for food.
So in other words, your planetary influences and your astrological signs suggest that you're never going to go hungry. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. This is very
That's another
interesting.
way of looking at it.
All right. Have you had a situation, Shalini, where I know you said you're not working professionally as an astrologer, even though you're knowledgeable about it, but I'm sure there are family members, friends who come to you and say, Shalini, you know, is my son ever going to get married, or will I pass this exam, or whatever it is that they consult you with. Has there been a sort of incident in your life where you were so sure about something and it didn't happen? And if that was so, what is your scientific explanation for why it may not have happened?
So I think I'll talk of it the other way around. Like,
Okay.
when I predict, I just say what I feel. Like, it's also like an intuition. When you look at the chart, it's a feeling that you get apart from the knowledge that you use. And sometimes I've made predictions and people have come back and said that it was dot on and it's been absolutely true. And when I look back, sometimes I can't understand why I said what I said. So it is a bit mythical as well in its own way. And
So there is an intuitive aspect to it,
there is definitely an intuitive.
despite the sort of science behind it.
Despite, because the science is only till we make the horoscope. After that, it's your prediction. And it's also
Or your interpretation.
your interpretation. And also, I think your conditioning, the kind of horoscopes that come in front of you, that build your belief system. Because if you see a pattern, you see something happen.
Concept was that that time the way families would function was very different from now the way it is. You know, let me tell you, in the classical text of astrology, there is no word of divorce mentioned. Why? Because there were no divorces then. There was polygamy then. But now, don't divorces happen? But then the question comes, does an horoscope guides you whether marriage will be success or not? Well, yes, it does. So what I'm trying to say here, Shobha, is that with changing times, the astrologers also need to change their perspective of the way they are looking at the horoscope. Now, where the disconnect happens where they are stuck with the same age-old ideas. They might say, oh, in this classical book, this is mentioned and that's, therefore I predicted this. Yeah, he is right. But then one has to, you know, change, as I said, very big problem, which earlier was not so. So can a horoscope tell? Well, yes, I have guided so many, couples by seeing their chart and telling them that, you'll have to undergo a medical treatment or adoption is something which is good for you. So this is how, interpretation can make a lot of difference.
So the qualifications of the astrologer, the knowledge of the astrologer, the
Absolutely.
readings of the astrologer, the openness in terms of interpretation, all affect your reading of a chart.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I have a
It does.
question just based on timelines, and this is based on, in South India there's a lot of consultation of astrologers. It happens with my grandmothers, my aunts, uncles, so everybody at some point has gone through a visit to an astrologer, and so have I. And, whether however skeptical one is or however much one believes in it.
Time is very important. That's why in astrology, you need 3 inputs. You need the date of birth, the time of birth, and the place of birth. Now, with the time of birth, the disconnect happens most of the time. I've seen this personally happening in hospitals. If the birth is taken place between 6 to 6:30, they will put on the birth certificate 6:30. Now, here where what Shobha raised the point, the prediction can go wrong. And it so happens that the family also gets to know about the birth happening maybe 10-15 minutes after the actual birth has happened. And there was earlier a controversy onto this also, that how do we determine what is exactly the time of birth? Is it when the head of the child is visible? Is it when you cut the umbilical cord? Now, I met a very learned astrologer and he said, no, when the first cry happens, because that's the first breath an individual has taken on this planet. So that is the time of birth.
But
so
you're
now this
saying
is also
a few
controversy.
seconds can affect your chart.
Yes, Shobha.
So if it's the same, why are their lives so different? It's environment.
It's environment again, the Kal, Desh Kal, Paristiti, all of
See,
that
I'll
as
tell
well.
you what. I'll explain this here. What Shalini explained, it becomes a little technical, so if you allow me, what she said about the Lagna. So it's 30 degrees. So 1 degree is 4 minutes. Lagna is basically the sign rising at your time of birth in the eastern horizon. In the eastern horizon, I repeat again, right? So that's why the time of birth plays such an important role. So like what she rightly said, if your birth is taking place when the Lagna is changing, when it is 28 degrees, or even I've had, births which are 29 degree or 00 degree, that means the changes just happen. Now determining the Lagna there can change the whole picture. Now talking about twins, in astrology, you must have seen a horoscope, a kundli, there's a picture with little, half,
With the little squares.
squares, yeah, half squares, squares in different regions, there are different horoscopes. Okay, so there is something called as a Lagna Kundli. Then there are 16 divisional charts, right, where the life unfolds, and those divisional charts can change within a difference of few seconds, and that is where the difference comes.
I see.
Right, so therefore twins born to the same parents, same time, same place have different destinies.
Very interesting.
It
Well, I
is.
tried to ask you this, Shalini. I wanted to ask you too, Ridhi.
Yeah.
Have there been, have you looked at a chart and then discovered a surprise? Have you said something that didn't come true?
Yeah.
Have you had these kind of experiences? Just curious.
Yeah. Recently only, I predicted Donald Trump will win, and he did not.
Donald
No,
Trump
sorry.
did.
Donald Trump will lose. Kamala Harris will win, and the opposite happened.
So why? So
Yes.
I'm curious to know why you predicted that based
Yeah,
on his
ba-
position of his
yes,
charts.
based on the position of his chart. Certainly, that is the criteria. I mean, I'm an astrologer, so I'll study the chart, and I did study the chart, and based on the dasha pattern, based on the charts, I did predict that chances of Kamala Harris are stronger than that of Mr. Trump. But then the opposite happened. So.
But what was interesting is, especially in India and even in
Well, yes. See, I'm still figuring out why I made the mistake. And what comes to a rescue to astrologer is कि time गलत होगा, तभी prediction गलत हुई है. But then,
True, that's so
That's a
true.
good one.
you know.
Or even they'll twist on something, this must have happened and that must have happened.
Exactly. So, I can give you the technical reason for why I predicted, because Donald Trump was running the dasha of the planet, which is placed in the 12th house. Now, 12th house is the house for retirement. So, now how can a dasha, which is linked with retirement, make a person the president of a country? So
who
that
knows?
means
They're saying Elon Musk is going to run the show.
well, but then still, see, he is now this has happened. So this is up to me to study and find out where I went wrong, right?
Good. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's interesting. So one can be fallible in this science.
Absolutely.
Just as in anything in life.
Yes.
Interesting. And sometimes perhaps we're guided by our own thinking or biases or whatever.
Correct.
Shalini, what about you?
I agree
Do you
to
have
that.
a little, did you make a faux pas at any time or did you?
I'm sure I did, but I don't really remember one. I remember the ones that came out true.
That's wonderful. I don't want to take up I want to open it up to the audience. I know that many of you are here because you want to find out a little bit more about astrology. I understand that one of our Vedic astrologers here actually still practices and
Yes.
can be hired for consultations. Shalini, I don't know, but this is your chance to talk to any of us, especially the Vedic astrologers. Any questions? Yeah?
Yes.
Do you have a mic? Can you give her a mic? Oh, he's bringing it.
Hi, I'm glad you brought up that thing about, so when is the child born?
Yeah.
So astrology, because it goes back to the times of the Veds, the point is, today a marriage is what it is legally, right? You get married the day you are registered, not otherwise. And then there were 8 kinds of vivah.
Yeah.
Kidnapping was also a kind of vivah.
Absolutely. Rakshas
Gandhar
vivah.
vivah.
Yeah.
And then you kisi ko balat le jao. Balatkar was not rape.
Yeah.
Balatkar was balat, zabardasti kisi ko le jana.
Right.
So today, when astrology actually speaks of those 8 kinds of marriages,
Yeah.
as an astrologer today, which is the moment at which 2 people get married? When they consummate, or when they declare it socially, or when they use some kind of a divinity or some power to legalize?
Of the spouse is also called the house of partnership.
Yeah.
And that house basically not only determines about your marriage, but how your partnerships will be. It could be in business, it could be anything. So basically, like she said, living in or any kind of even finding, like love, I would say. Whether it goes forward or not is another thing. But it's not just marriage, it's just finding a partner. And whereas the 8 kind of vivahs, kidnapping was never an accepted way, though it was one of the 8 vivahs. It was called the Rakshas vivah.
Yeah.
And it was never accepted. It was not considered the right thing to do, but it was one of the forms. Gandhar vivah was when they both agreed and they were in love and they just kind of accepted the marriage without any rituals. They could be in a relationship. So that is definitely, astrology also believes in that.
Does one astrological chart, can it affect another astrological chart? So in a
Yes.
partnership, can you say, if you
Yes.
marry so-and-so, it'll
Yeah.
influence your business
Yes.
success or something else?
Absolutely, like Shalini said this, a marriage, the seventh house, it is about partnership. So it's not just when we match charts for marriages. We even see for partnership. A lot of people come to me, oh, I'm getting into a partnership with so-and-so person. Will it work for me? Or will me and my brother as partners will it be a successful venture? Yeah, so the parameters are same. Partnership is partnership.
And
Yeah.
even marriage, I suppose,
a lot-
living together can be called a marriage.
Absolutely.
So somebody who's sitting in Kerala looking at a chart, if you were in a live-in relationship in a city, they may say that you are married to so-and-so without...
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Got
And it's
it.
also, I think, the success of partnership or marriage, I think also depends on the temperament, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is kind of looked at in the chart.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
So yeah, there is one thing that I want to know, that the initial times when these books were written, I think when Parashar wrote, there was no concept of suicide, that is Atmahatya, right?
Yeah.
Now when the astrologers predict that ऐसे कुछ आसार हैं,
Yeah.
how do you go about it?
Okay. You want to take or should I say? Okay, ma'am. So, like I said, when Parashar actually wrote Virad Parashar Hora Shastra, there were a lot of things which were not existing then and they're existing now, right? What we see is moon, because see what happens, when do you commit suicide? It is, you have negative thoughts. It is mind, which triggers, something in your mind triggers. So therefore, moon plays a very important role. With moon, if there is any malefic influence, especially the researches that I have done, especially on suicides, their moon and Ketu's conjunction together has led to a situation like suicide. But then we can't just, whenever we make a prediction, we can't just hold one planet responsible. It's the planet, the transit, the dasha, everything comes into play. Right? So when it comes to suicide, yes, the condition of moon is to be seen. People who have weak moon have a tendency. It's not that they every time commit suicide. Even people who have suicidal tendencies, then also we need to check the moon.
Thank you so much.
Do you have something to add, Shalini?
Yes,
And
I
then we'll
agree.
only have time for one more question. We've been very, very late. So after she finishes the response.
So I agree that it's definitely the moon, because
Hello.
moon, again, if you see scientifically, moon decides the tides in our, in our ocean,
Yeah.
and our body is made up of 75% of water.
Absolutely.
So all the emotions, the tides are connected to the moon. If you see,
Correct.
that's why Amavasya and Purnima, the full moon and the new moon, are given a lot of importance.
Yeah.
And you're asked to tap into the energy of the full moon by so many meditators. So definitely the moon, the placement of the moon, the strength of the moon, and all of that is definitely important for
yeah.
watching out for any mental disturbance,
Very
not
true.
just suicide.
Very true.
You have a question?
Hello. Yes, ma'am. First of all, ma'am, it's been a very enlightening session.
Thanks.
Ma'am, my question to you all is, considering the tremendous advancement of science and technology, the thing that we have entered the AI era, my question to you, how do astrologers make themselves relevant in this day and age? Yeah.
You take? Okay. So see, astrology is a subject. It's a science. Like you can ask the same question about medical science. That in the age of AI, or even say way back in 90s when computers were just coming in, when internet was a sensation, people would ask me this question. Oh, now we can just type and go to an app and get to know what the future has to say. But there is always a human touch to it, right? And as Shalini also said, and as Shobha also brought this point, every astrologer has their own interpretation.
Yeah.
Right? And then the study, how knowledgeable an astrologer is, plays a very important role. Now, I don't know how AI can help in getting knowledge to you.
So I think to add to that, the relevance has gone up despite the AI being there.
Yeah.
There are more and more people who want to know about the future, and in fact, the youngsters are really interested in it. So I feel, somewhere, I think, I don't know if it's a post-COVID thing or what, because even temples, I see a lot of youngsters flocking to the temple. So I think we're going both ways in a way.
COVID probably made us all think about our mortality.
Correct.
Thank you so much, all of you. It's a pleasure to see you all, and I hope some of your questions were answered. If you have further questions, you can always talk to our authors outside. Thanks for coming. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.